Well, welcome back to the channel. It is a cool Saturday morning here in Montana. We're going to pick up right back with the Disney Classic Library. We got a Pinocchio. Figaro's Day Out. So let's just get Figaro going here. 1 second. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Figaro's Day Out. It doesn't say who was written right there. Ooh. Oh, it was written by Brooke. Vitale. Right there. Let me stretch out this book. Figaro's Day Out. Oop. Figaro skull at Pinocchio from the corner. Ever since the blue fairy had brought the puppet to life, things had changed. Before, Figaro had slept in Geppetto's bed. He had eaten all his meals beside the wood carving, and he had been the one Geppetto told his stories to. But now, it seemed like Geppetto only had time for Pinocchio. Oh, the poor kitty cat. Figaro growled softly. Even Cleo, the fish, got more love than he did. Geppetto made a point of feeding Chloe every afternoon, but it was Pinocchio who gave Figaro his meals. Figaro eyed the fish. Perhaps if Chloe weren't around, Geppetto would find some time for him. He stalked towards the fishbowl, then stopped. Chloe wasn't the problem. Pinocchio was. Besides, Chloe was his friend. He could never hurt her. Suddenly, a dragonfly flew past Figaro's nose. The kitten chased the bug through the cottage and out the front door. But before he could get his paw on it, the dragonfly was out of its reach. Uh-oh. What's he going to do? Just then, Figaro heard a voice. Hey there, kitty kitty. Figaro looked around. His eyes landed on a little girl across the street. She was crouched with her arms stretched toward him. Figaro happily trotted over to her. If Geppetto didn't have time for him, he'd get his snuggles somewhere else. Uh-oh. Figaro purred happily as the little girl rubbed him between the ears and tickled his belly. He nuzzled against her as she patted him between the eyes, and he arched up in delight as she scratched his back. Oh, aren't you just the sweetest little kitten, the girl said. I'm Victoria. I wish I could keep playing with you, but my mama just finished up her shopping, which means it's time to go home. Giving Figaro one last rub between the eyes, Victoria stood up and started to walk away. So Figaro followed. He'd be back before Geppetto even noticed he was gone, if Geppetto noticed he was gone. But when Victoria's mother finally stopped him, she shooed him away. They weren't allowed to have pets at their house. Figaro looked around. He had been so focused on trying to get the girl to play with him that he hadn't paid attention to where he was walking. He realized he had no idea where he was. Nothing looked familiar. The kitty whimpered softly. How was he going to find his way home if he didn't know where he was? No! The kitty's lost. Uh-oh. Soon a storm hit the village. Figaro thought about the last time he'd been so wet. He'd been outside playing with Pinocchio and Geppetto. Did they shopping when suddenly it had started to rain? Can't see it very well in the camera, but by the time the two got home, the poor little kitten was shivering. Pinocchio had scooped him right up, carried him inside, and dried him off with a warm blanket. See, Pinocchio's not so bad after all, is he? By the time the rain stopped, Figaro was getting hungry. As luck would have it, he found himself at the back door of the restaurant. A trash can sat outside, overflowing with scraps. Figaro pranced towards the food, but as he jumped onto the can, he heard a loud hiss. A mama cat had already claimed the food for her kittens, and she was not about to share. Uh-oh. Figaro quickly backed away. He had never been in a fight before and was rather afraid of getting in one now. The little kitten thought about dinner at home. Pinocchio always poured him a nice big bowl of cream. Sometimes the boy even gave him a little meat or some broth with his dinner. Figaro's stomach growled again. It seemed that he might have been going to sleep hungry, and he was judging Pinocchio harshly because he was jealous. Spotting an empty step in front of a shop, Figaro laid down and put his head on his paws. The little kitten began to whimper. He had never been so cold, so hungry, so tired, or so lonely in his whole life. He missed the comfort of home. As he tried to get comfortable on the hard step, Figaro thought of his bed. Pinocchio had saved up his allowance to buy Figaro a fluffy blanket so his bed would be soft and always warm. As Figaro drifted out to sleep, he started to feel bad for being angry with Pinocchio. He should feel bad. The next morning, Figaro woke up to the sound of someone calling his name. He knew that voice. It was Pinocchio. The kitten began to meow as loudly as he could. Figaro, Pinocchio cried happily, racing over to the kitten. There you are, Father and I were looking for you all night. Pinocchio scooped up the kitten and hugged him tightly. Don't you know not to wander off? What if something terrible happened to you? They're family again. Back at the woodcarver's shop, Geppetto built up the fire and settled Figaro in his warm bed. Pinocchio gave the kitten a big bowl of cream and a plate of fish. There now, Pinocchio said as Figaro lapped up the cream. You should be feeling better in no time. Geppetto smiled at his son. You take such good care of Figaro. There's nothing left for me to do for him. You certainly love him, don't you? Look at that. Pinocchio sat down by the kitten and began to pet him. Oh, Figaro, he said, we do love you so. Figaro looked up at the boy, surprised. That was the first time Pinocchio had ever said he loved Figaro. But as Figaro thought of all the nice things Pinocchio did for him, he realized the boy had been showing the kitten his love all along. Nuzzling Pinocchio, Figaro snuggled up in the boy's lap, warm, dry, and with a belly full of food. The kitten began to drift off to sleep. Perhaps, he thought, Pinocchio wasn't so bad after all. In fact, having another person love him sounded just fine to Figaro, and he realized he loved the boy too. The end. That was Pinocchio, Figaro's Day Out. Well, until next time, keep reading, keep learning, and take care.